once you start using Claude Code, and I think Gemini CLI is great. I think cursor agents
Okay.
can be great. I personally think Claude Code is kind of current the state of the art, and I really love it. And then I started to realize that you can do it's just a general purpose agent. And so while at first you're like using Claude Code to code, and then you want to come up with some copy, and so or like maybe you like want to make a social post, and so you like jump over to ChatGPT and do your work. I started to realize like, oh, I can do this all from within Claude Code. And that's like a real change in workflow, which like I never lose this one tool. This one tool can basically do everything. And then you can start to build projects out that are just meant to support you. And so I have a Claude Code project that is just meant to be my chief of staff, and there's no code. I didn't write an app. It's like it's a directory, and actually it's a directory full of directories with files in them. And every time I like want to talk about a marketing plan, I talk about it with Claude Code, and then I'm like, great, save that in marketing. And then later on, I can come back to the same Claude Code instance and say like, great, what should our marketing plan this week be? And it has like so much context. It can use tools. You can get really sophisticated with like using MCP servers. You can certainly build little utilities and the like to help. But I'm not even doing it. I'm just like, hey, the prompt is like, you are my chief of staff. Every day I show up, we have a busy day. Help me organize my tasks, and help me work on this stuff. So that's kind of interesting way for non-technical people, or like a use of this agentic tooling that like doesn't require software at all. Another one is, man, I never use Google Sheets anymore. That's Google Sheets is the output, right? But I mean, there are especially times in my career as head of product, and you're like
It's
responsible for the metrics, and you're like writing these formulas in Google Sheets, and you make a little mistake, whatever. It's like you have these massive sheets, and now it's like anytime someone gives me a big data set or like a CSV file, I'm like immediately, um, these days going Claude
going to.
Code, but previously it was ChatGPT, and and just like asking for the insights I want, and then just pulling out the insights. I think that's another good use case. I think maybe kind of another thing that I'm trying to operate right now, maybe a separate topic is like I'm trying to operate now as a one person startup studio.
Hmm,
And I would love for this to
it's
be,
interesting.
I think it's very hard to be a solo entrepreneur, and just very hard to not have teammates, and you have these robots who are your teammates who you start to talk to and stuff. And so I would love for this to be small, but I can never imagine it being big. Okay, here's my full unlock and how I got to this position, which is I'm giving these workshops mostly to product managers at large startups or Fortune 500s, and I'm teaching them how to use Cloud Code. And then pretty recently, we were set to launch to do the workshop on Monday. I do these workshops in I teach people Next.js, Vercel, Supabase, like a very simple stack anyone can build on, and one that I believe in. And then like on a Sunday before the Monday, the client says like, "Hey, can we really focus this on iOS development?" I haven't built an iPhone app in 6 years. Like the last time I touched iOS was before I really jumped full time into crypto. And even then, and I have launched a couple of apps, but I mean, there were the teams of developers who launched these iOS apps, right? Like so I haven't really done it. And so I was very tempted to reply, nope, we're going to do Next.js. And right before I did that, it was like, man, I don't know. Let's see. And I fire up Xcode. 2 hours later, I have like a pretty cool working demo. I sort of worked 4 hours that Sunday, and I have something that I think is pretty great.
Hmm,
And so, I write back like, totally, we could do iOS tomorrow, and Cloud Code works great with iOS, and we had a great workshop. But that I love building iPhone apps. One, there's just a magic to having your app in your hand, and two, there's like pretty good constraints. There's great libraries for iOS. And so I totally got in this loop where I probably made in 2 weeks here 10 apps, 10 iOS apps in 2 weeks. And there was a moment where I had three versions of Xcode up at the same time, and I was building three apps at the same time, which is pretty intense and pretty like mentally stressful. Pretty good for lightweight prototyping of the things, not at all good at going deep on any of the things. But I really, and then you get such fast feedback, and you're building stuff you're actually using, and it's on your phone. And so that's when I think at first again I was doing this because I could, and then I felt like okay, maybe I'm wasting my time, and then I felt like wait, maybe this is a feature, and then somewhere I came to an app that I really love, and it's like oh, this is really
mhm.
interesting. This was like my startup studio model accelerated with a team of one person. And so I'm pretty interested in exploring that now. And and just kind of rapidly prototyping lots of stuff. The other nice thing about iOS is like there's like a finish line in a sense where you like put it in the app store. It's like pretty serious. Like you can launch every web app, you almost launch it by default. But here with iOS, you have to decide like, is this worthy of putting it in the app store and then getting people to download it? So that's like a pretty good gut check. But yeah, I think that's kind of the mode I'm in now, and what I plan to do for the remainder of the year is maybe between now and December, let's see if I get 6 apps in the app store and test them out. And a lot of this is like, you have to test the market. The market will tell you what's great. Your product is not going to be great. Like no matter how great your product is, if the market doesn't want it, then it doesn't matter,
There,
right?
there comes one other. The first, an observation that I have to make, especially now that you said 6, like getting 6 out by the end of the year. When in previous ventures, like startup studios, it was like, okay, we test 6 ideas and maybe get
Yeah,
2 out.
totally. We had $20 million treasury to make it happen.
And my actual question is, when it comes to this volume of apps, like it really, the game kind of shifts to like who has the distribution, is like who can get the users and more eyeballs to the apps. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, because like 6 apps and managing 6 apps sounds like a hell of a job for one person.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think like distribution matters more than ever. And having distribution channels, I have some larger social distribution channels that help, but having distribution channels, where I think I'll probably spend more time than I think is like on the go-to-market strategy, because a lot of the traditional stuff doesn't really work anymore. So you gotta really like figure out how to go to market. I think when I say I would launch 6 apps, I think like I would hope to launch 6 apps by the end of the year, but then maybe only one of them is still on the App Store in January. And so I think it's a lot of like kind of, lean startup philosophy of like, let's validate. And we used to like try to validate things with like a landing page. Like, do people click this button? And will people fill out my survey? And now we can just validate with full on real apps. And then I'll just say, like, for myself, I've been like the app I'm most excited about. I actually have two great apps. One of them I think is not commercial, but I did build an app where I just tell my agent what kind of music I want to listen to, and then it creates like an amazing Apple Music playlist for me. And I've been using it every day, and it's great, and it has replaced all of the other music stuff that I've tried in the past. I'm not sure that music is a tough business, so I think it's super interesting. I'm definitely gonna put this in the App Store. I haven't really thought if it's just maybe it's just I actually just want to put it in the App Store so my friends have easy access to it. I'd figure out it might be bring your own key, because one thing about building these apps is like then you have on the back end of your there's twofold. There's one, you just use the tools to build whatever you want. That's step one. There's another thing, which is like you're building what they call like these ChatGPT wrappers that like use that your app actually makes the API calls, and that can be pretty expensive. So you have to actually think about a business model when you put these things in the App Store. But one really good app, it works. It's like pretty incredible. I'm gonna put it in the App Store. It's not the one I expect to make much money on it. I posted it on Farcaster, which is where my biggest audience is. Like people with Apple Music accounts were psyched. So I was like, okay, cool, like, great, I'm building something. The second thing I'm building, which I'm very excited about, I'm using it every day. At first, it was like I want to build a Read It Later app, and I was thinking like just for myself, Pocket, there's a bunch of these Readwise, Pocket. And Pocket's going away. Most of these things have kind of gone away. And so anyway, the problem I have is that I get a lot of news coming at me, and I want to read it some other time. And so at best, I send it to my Kindle and hope to find some Kindle time.
One thing over there, because I also had the same problem, what helped me in that case was because I tried doing something similar. It didn't really work. I also got cluttered, for myself at least, was putting filters up. But putting filters up of my own, like literally, it's mostly like putting even personality filters somewhere in the process. That helped me quite a bit to get the right information.
For sure. So this is where I'm actually going in a sense, which is first I was building this for myself. Like I knew it had to be iOS native and Mac native, because that's the only way I would really use it. So I just started building it. I've built a lot of stuff for myself, by the way, like simple tools like, hey, I got a lot of emails. Is there anything important in there? And then having the thing tell me like with a couple of emails I should check out. Okay. I'm building a lot of tools for myself that I just don't release. And so I had started down this path of like, great, I just need a better Read It Later. I'm just going to build this thing. I'd be excited to use all of like the latest Apple technology along the way. So I'm building this thing. And then and it totally works. Cool. Then I add chat to the article view, which is like it's just it's so good in my opinion. Which is like, you're reading an article, you maybe have questions. You're like reading an article
It's
about
true.
Nvidia and how their chips are blocked or not blocked in China. Like, who else makes chips? Like, who else is China? Like, there's a lot not in the article. So you're like reading this article, and then you can chat about it. Is like easily my favorite way of ever consuming the news, and I feel more knowledgeable. And so anyway, so it's super cool. I'm like, ah, cool. I'm gonna probably release this. That's actually really amazing. And then, but then I realized, like, oh, you can add chat to the home screen too. By the way, these are reading apps, like chat's the added feature that you can use or not use. It doesn't matter. But then it's like, oh, I can add chat to the home screen, and I can say like, cool, I got 5 minutes. What should I read? Or like, hey, I just want to read about Barcelona. Show me what I saved. And so it's a filter, but it's like, one, I don't have to tag anything or like apply these filters. I'm just kind of asking
It's
what I should
interesting.
read. And that's all. We didn't even get into voice, which is a whole other kind of, I think, really finally emerging paradigm, which is like press a button and say like, show me the stories about Messi.
So
So
it's sort of like opening a lot more customized experience.
I
That's
think
the
that's
main
it.
unlock.
That's it. And it can learn a lot about
Oh,
you along the way. Where I
yeah,
was going with this is like, I've been posting all of my experiments on the internet, and, a couple of friends say, great, great, cool, But then when I posted that one, it was a whole video thing. Like, it kind of was like a viral cast. Like, tons of people liked it. Like, tons of people have access to it. And so, in a sense, it's like the first wave of validating. Like, I'm building all of this stuff. Does anyone care? And I don't always think a social post is the best way to know, but a social post can be a good way to know. Because, like, I've been posting all of this stuff, and
that's
people are
true.
like, "Oh, it's cool that you're doing that, Chris." And then you post something where it's like, "How can I get that?" And then you're like, "Great. So now this is worthy of focusing my whole week or my next 2 weeks on building and shipping, and
That's
then
true.
coming up with a launch strategy and a pricing model and all of that stuff."